here we go.
Hang
Got it.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello.
Is this Emma?
Hello, Emma.
Yes.
Oh,
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us.
It's a bit complicated. I didn't see the invitation sign.
Oh, right. Yeah, the site is new, so we are also a little bit off on how it works, right?
Yes, probably. I usually do conferences via the GoToMeeting service, so I'm used to that service.
Right.
So,
Right. Welcome, Emma. Welcome to our call.
yes, welcome all of you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
So we have. Let me introduce you there for just a moment. We have Buddy, we have Heather, we have Neil, and we have David. And I'll ask all of them to 1 or 2 sentences, maybe, introduce yourself. And then maybe, Emma, you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we can start off with England, where we actually met during the conference. And I believe you have something in store for us, as in going into astrology in connection to the sun and as to how astrology came to be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Welcome to the September 30th edition of the Electric View. I'm Neil Thompson. Today we have Dave, Jim, Heather, Buddy, Edwin, and Eugene with our special guest Ema Kurent. We will be talking about astrology and harmonics and the new revelations from one of the oldest techniques for watching the heavens. Please like and subscribe below.
Yes. Well, basically, I've been in astrology since my, maybe college years. Yes. When I started to study, that is more than 30 years, probably about 30 years. So what I wanted to share with you today is some very basic knowledge about the so-called sun signs, okay, about the sun's role in astrology. Edo, tell me, can I share screen now or?
Sure.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I
will use it. And I'm a bit nervous when I see my face on.
Please
we all
take
are.
Sure.
No problem.
Take away the video.
Yeah. We used to do that at the beginning, and then after a while, we were like, nope.
Yeah.
That's very good. Because I normally, and also the voice is, we can hear each other better, I think, if there is no video.
Right.
Cool.
So yeah, please do share your screen whenever you like. If you want to show something or whatever.
I've never done this
in
Skype. So just tell me what to do.
Yeah, there's I'm not sure which version you're on, but there's a little this button right here. You can share
I can see share screen.
There you go. You got to
go. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Okay, now let me find my first picture, which I wanted to share. Yeah. So, this is something that I wanted to share. Now, something that astrology has in common with the electric universe, folks. Okay, mm-hmm. I think it's the fact that the electric universe theory claims that the sun has a much more vital role in the life on Earth than is normally accepted or understood or let's say confessed. Okay, so like. The way I understand the theory of the electric sun, it is that those scientists or those people who research this stream of knowledge claim that our weather is much more affected by the sun's power than it would be as if there was no, the electrical power connecting it to the Earth. Whereas in astrology, the sun also has like supreme power, the power that actually influences us in very basic and very powerful ways. As you know, the 12 astrological signs are the basis of Western astrology. Yeah. Western astrology developed in this region of the Mediterranean, around here, like where today we have Iraq, Iran, and this part. So it was like Mediterranean region, and then it spread to the east, to the west, and to the east, and to where we have India today. But one thing that is very important to understand is that the region where astrology developed defined the ways that it was developed. You know, all continents, every continent had developed its own astrology. Like, of course, there was no astrology there might be in Australia, but we don't know. We have no sources, but we surely know that, we definitely know that here in South America, astrology developed differently. They had no zodiacal signs, okay? They calculated planetary periods. Also, in regions much north, to the northern regions, like in China, their astrology also developed very differently, okay, differently from the kind of astrology that was developed in the Mediterranean region. Here, what is very basic to this region is that we have, well, actually all latitudes, all people living, all locations in these middle latitudes have seasons. Okay, we have spring, summer, autumn, and winter, and this understanding of the seasons is very basic to the understanding of the zodiacal signs. And what creates seasons? The sun, of course. Okay, or actually the relation of our Earth to the sun. We know that the Earth is tilted. Here, the Earth is like it stands tall. Like, I'm sorry for my English.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. You're very clear, actually.
And I've had 2 sleepless nights, so you know, I don't know.
We're on the same page with that. Mm-hmm. It's all good. We have a fun time, and we're really interested. So thank you.
Thank you. So, what creates the seasons is actually the sun, and this is very, very important. Now, this is the Earth, and this is ecliptic. This is the sun's path. You can see the sun here, and looking above at the horizon, we can see the sun getting 1 degree further along this ecliptic every subsequent day. Okay, the sun crosses. This is like a big plane. The ecliptic is a plane. We call it a plane, a celestial plane. But there are other planes. So this is the sun's path. But we have, this plane is very important. The equator. Here we can see the Earth equator, but extended into infinity. It's called celestial equator. And this, of course, the Earth equator divides the Earth to northern and southern pole, northern and southern hemispheres. Whereas the celestial equator is that plane which divides, the whole universe, like the whole, into 2 halves, as related to our Earth, of course. Now, the point where the sun in its yearly route around the Earth, because this is, of course, geocentrically speaking, we call this the geocentric view, because this is how we observe the sun's path from the Earth. Of course, we know that the Earth moves around the sun, in true reality. But the system of measurements which astrology uses, is the geocentric system, and it is, of course, a perfectly viable system. Well, anyway, we can see the sun at the vernal equinox, which is the 21st of March each year. And now I'm talking about the northern hemispheres, okay, about the latitudes, like the middle, in the middle section of the northern hemisphere. So we have these seasons. So each year on the 21st of March, the sun crosses the celestial equator at this point. And here is where we have where the day and night are exactly equal, okay? So are exactly equal in length. And this has a certain quality. It seems like from this point onwards, because of the fact that the sun comes up every day a couple of minutes earlier and sets a couple of minutes later, we have the days get longer, okay? And because the days get longer, there is more warmth. The sun is seen as rising a degree higher above the horizon each subsequent day, and until it reaches the 23.5 degree of northern latitude. And this is, we call it a celestial declination. On the Earth measurement, we call it the Cancer, Rakopovratnik. How is that called in
Tropic of Cancer.
Cancer, thank you. Tropic of Cancer. So here we have the longest day and the shortest night. And again, this is a crucial point where the sun begins its next stage in its yearly journey. So this is like the first stage is from the vernal equinox to the summer solstice. The longest day, the shortest night. This is the first part of the sun's journey. And then from here onwards to the summer starts. And at the end of the summer, of course, there is autumn. And the autumn begins at the autumnal equinox when the sun and, the day and night are again of exactly equal length. And this is this point when where the sun's path crosses the celestial equator again, like here on this side. But at this time, the sun gets below the equator, so that means that the days get shorter in the northern hemisphere, whereas, of course, in the southern hemisphere, the days start getting longer. So, but in our hemisphere, in our regions, the autumn begins. Days get shorter and shorter and shorter. We have autumn until the winter solstice. Here, this is at this point. Again, the sun crosses the No. At this point, this is when the Tropic of Capricorn, here, the sun reaches its highest declination of 23.5 degrees. That is the distance from the equator, okay, and 23.5 degrees. And there is the longest night and the shortest day. And then the winter starts. Each subsequent day, the sun already gets a bit, the days are a bit longer until the new spring begins. So, when there is vernal equinox, the zodiacal sign of Aries begins. At the summer solstice, Cancer begins. The autumnal equinox, Libra begins, the zodiacal sign. I'm talking about zodiacal signs, not constellations, not stars, not anything, because zodiac is basically the division of the sun's path into 12 equal parts.
Maybe we can later on, Emma, go to the constellations. I know that you told me a little bit about some controversy there, right? The slipping of the time, etc., in relation to the constellations or to the signs that you are pointing out now. But we can go there later on, I guess.
Yes. Well, actually, I did not. I don't want to go into that now because it's complicated and it is not. It doesn't pertain to what I wanted to say, actually.
So we're limiting ourselves now to the what you're dealing with here. So not the constellations themselves. Okay.
What I want to stress is that the qualities of the signs are sun-related. The qualities of the signs have everything to do with the solar energy. It was so from the beginning. But it's good, Edo, that you mentioned this. This distraction, because, for example, the Indians are more to the south. Their astrology was different. They developed it in a different way. And when they overtook the Western astrology, which was from Babylonians, they said, okay, we will keep your signs, but they I would not like to complicate. They somehow fixed these signs onto the fixed zodiac, to the fixed to the distant stars. They did not follow the tropical rule anymore. So they lost the meaning of the signs. What I want to say is that we have another zodiac which is called sidereal. This is what Edo meant. But I'm not going to deal with it now because it is wrong. It is not. I actually say that it is not scientific. I say that only tropical zodiac, as was developed here in this region, is kind of scientific because I believe astrology is scientific in the sense that it is based on very precise astronomical, positions. Because this is astronomy, this is physics, this is like, you cannot say, the sign of Aries starts here when the sun is here or when the sun is here, because this is what Indians do. Indians say the stars, the sign of Aries starts when the sun is here at 25 Pisces, because they have gone wrong. And this is all that I want to say today about the Indian, or sidereal system. They developed their own astrology. Which is in certain ways, I'm certain, I never studied, their ways, except for the zodiac, which is definitely wrong. But they have their own system, which probably works in some way. But it can't work with the zodiac. So what happened in our astrology is that all the qualities of the signs were gradually based on the kind of on the qualities of the nature, and in certain month of, in certain seasons and certain month, because we know, of course, that the quality of time is dependent of how long the sun spends above the horizon during each day. Yes, we know that nothing grows in winter because the days are very short in winter. Because the days are short, it's very cold. And when there is no heat, no warmth, no solar radiant energy, life cannot exist. Life is hidden below the earth. Okay? And this is the sun's yearly cycle actually determines so many things on this earth. We have the people, the civilization, we do not realize how strongly the life on earth depends on the sun's cycle, because we do not have the historical memory. People usually don't have historic memory. If we had this, we would realize that life on earth has been developing billions and billions and billions of years. So, everything that happens is the consequence of some rules that are created by the motion of the cosmos, by the motion of the sun, the moon, and the planets. There are rhythms, there are cycles, there are, it's like a cosmic computer that generates everything that is that is going on Earth. This is how I understand astrology. This is how I have come to understand astrology after 30 years of research. Okay, this is why prediction is possible. But I'm not going into that. I would just like to explain, to you, because you are all thinking people who believe that the sun travels to the Earth in a much forceful way than is commonly acknowledged. So I just want to say that astrology does it, or has been doing it too, for thousands of years.
Right.
Yes. So I would like to explain now. Now, first tell me, are you all the people here in the circle? Are you all? Do you all live in the northern hemisphere? Or
I believe we do. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at 45 degrees. I don't know where they are.
I'm at 42.
Okay.
Juan is part of us occasionally, and he's the only one I know that's in the southern hemisphere. So.
Okay, because with the Southerns, it's like I tend to reverse zodiacal signs for the Southerns,
Mm-hmm.
Which is what no astrologer does on this earth except me, and they ridicule me. They say you're crazy, but I say you are crazy, and they say how can we be crazy? It's possible, it's possible. When Copernicus said, things he said, and people that developed new cosmologies, everybody was laughing, but. Astrology is a science. I call it a science. Okay, it doesn't matter. Or let's say a field of knowledge that is very underdeveloped. Nobody finances astrology. Okay, we people who deal with astrology, we research. We do our research in our spare time. Okay, with our spare means. So it's really underdeveloped. At the same time, it's been here for thousands and thousands of years. It never disappears. It just stays there. Well, anyway, I have veered.
What might be nice, Emma, is if we introduce ourselves, just so you don't feel like alone in the group. We're kind of we're tentatively listening, but
maybe,
it may be a comfort level that we introduce just by saying hello. So you get the warm fuzzies from us. So I'm David. We started this group kind of in gear in the spring, basically, and we all met up at the Thunderbolts conference a year before Bath. I know Ito met you in Bath, I believe. So It was in Phoenix. So it kind of we're a group that kind of spawned from that. So I'm an electrical engineer and I do a lot of programming. So that's my role, and I'll introduce my favorite host, Neil, now. So.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, David.
I'm Neil Thompson. I'm also an electrical engineer, and I work with the Thunderbolts as well. I'm actually quite interested in the relationships between, we'll say, the stuff we've learned recently about the way that the planets move, how that affects weather on Earth. And how we've been obsessed in a way with the movement of the planets, which basically astrology is. I mean, we didn't do anything without paying attention to the planets back in the old days. Ships would not sail. Whether or not you owed money depended on where the moon was. All that kind of thing. So to say it wasn't important, it clearly, obviously, has something it reaches into our past, and it tells us something possibly about the future, which I find fascinating, especially given what we've learned about the electric universe and the nature of the charges of the planets and so forth.
Oh, yes. Neil, by the way, you speak about the weather and stuff. We have these eclipses, eclipses, solar and lunar. And there was a very strong eclipse, a total lunar eclipse at the end of this July on the 27th. And I do weather research and stuff. So now the degree of the ecliptic, where this eclipse took place, this was exactly, let me show you on this circle, this was at 4 degrees of Aquarius, which is here. It's pretty much where
the sun is.
So here was the total lunar eclipse, and this creates, every this is of course a conjunction of the sun and moon. The sun and moon were on the same degree, and on in the close vicinity of the lunar node. So the Earth was actually the sun covered the moon. So it was and when something like this happens, there is I think it's an electrical phenomenon because the whole atmosphere becomes recharged. It's like the death of vitality for a couple of minutes. And when there is the death of vitality, which reaches to the Earth very strongly, although, of course, this is not acknowledged. But when this happens, then, of course, we had already in weeks before, a week or two before the eclipse, or that was before the lunar eclipse was the solar eclipse, we had, this weather, strong fires. California was was burning, Greece was burning, and this is because, in my interpretation, at the spot where sun and moon were at the eclipse, Mars was very close. Mars is the planet of fire. Mars is the planet that is somehow, on some level, synchronized with heat. So, and this is why I, of course, already also predicted that there would be fires around that time. But what is interesting is that I predicted, now listen, that at the end of this month, September, in the middle of, and at the end of September,
right,
nature would go wild again. Why? Because now, see, let's say this is the degree where the sun and moon were at the eclipse. Mars was here.
Right.
Then Mars turned, and then Mars, I think at that time was going retrograde, and then around here it turned direct again. And now, at the end of September, Mars reached the degree of the eclipse. And this way, Mars reactivated the workings of the eclipse. This is the age-old astrological theory that the eclipse degree, when it gets reactivated by a transit of a planet, at that time, the eclipse shows its force again. And among and we could see that, I don't know how much you followed the nature, the weather, in these later days, but there was a very strong earthquake in Sumatra. It was exactly on the 28th of September, when Mars was exactly on the eclipse degree. And then on the same day, or around the same day, this hurricane formed in Mediterranean Sea.
Right.
The Mediterranean region has very rarely has a hurricane, and this happened right now. And then there were some aircraft incidents, Ryanair strike. It was the whole lot, many, stressful events which took place on Earth, because this is just to illustrate, how this works, just a little bit.
well, before we go, let me just say that it's great to have you on, and I in fact, if I was to go next, I'd say I'll just go right up the list. I'll give the floor to Heather. Heather is actually definitely knows her astrology better than I do. I take a lot of my cues for her on this regard, and she was talking about some of the things that you were talking about. Heather, are you there? Or maybe not.
I am here. I'm just trying to find a quiet place because by a noisy environment. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, of course, yes. But yeah, she was talking about Eva's talking about things that are hitting the level that I guarantee that you know about, and I guess you could pass it on to Buddy or Edwin or Eugene there when you're done. So just to get the introduction out of the way.
Sure. Hi, I'm Heather. I'm an artist and an author. I wrote a book about the EU, and I actually did incorporate some astrology ideas into it to kind of warm people up to the exact same things that you're exposing us to. So thank you very much for your work, because I feel like a lot of people in this community are undercover, or like closet astrology folks, and it you know what I mean. Like a lot of these things apply to what we're learning more and more and more. And I have questions for you about the following full moon that was also the Saturn opposition. So if you have any predictions about a recurrence from that, I would be interested to know. That one was in.
Well, actually, my today's focus is on introducing the way that the sun forms our characters.
Oh, nice.
So I would not like to jump from one subject to another and predict something, because I don't have everything in my head. Okay, I would have to, for example, if I would predict something about the following few moons, full moons and stuff, I would have to look at them and do my work before I say something. So if you maybe some other time. Oh, okay. Thank you, Heather. Can I meet the other people before I proceed, or?
Yeah. Well, there's Buddy. Buddy, are you there? Maybe not. Well, we'll go with Edwin then. Edwin, you already met Emma.
Edwin. If I saw him, I'd probably recognize him.
I don't know if he's probably muted too. Jeez, I have people muted. They don't even know if we're talking about
I'm
them.
sorry, I was indeed muted.
Ha! Told you.
No, yeah. I'm Ido, Emma. Hi, Emma.
Yes, hi. Oh, Ido, of course. I mean,
yeah.
I've met Ido.
Yeah, there's a little name confusion there. I do apologize. I can't
It's like a
help
nickname,
that.
I guess.
I thought there was another Ido or something.
No.
No, there's Eugene, though.
Eugene is still there?
Yeah, Eugene's here, too. I just brought him on there. So.
Hello. I'm Eugene.
Hello.
You guys are from the
Eugene.
similar neck of the woods, somewhere in the Eastern European area or something?
Well, I'm in Eastern, but he's like in Central or in Western, I guess. I mean, Netherlands.
Yes, and Emma is from Slovenia. Is that right, Emma?
Yes. I'm from Slovenia. This is close to Italy, Austria, Croatia, Hungary. A very, very little small country. We only have 2 million people. It's exactly, I can show you where I live. It's exactly here. This is Slovenia. This is me.
Oops. I know a couple of guys from Slovenia.
Yes?
Yeah.
Here. This
I'm from...
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm from Belarus.
You're from Belarus? Oh, this is here.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we are from all over the world. Okay,
I'm in Hollywood.
Let's continue now with my presentation.
Yes, certainly. I'm sure Buddy is just probably busy, so
yeah.
we'll catch back
and Jim just joined.
Jim just joined in. Jim, you want to introduce yourself? Put you right on the spot. You don't even know what we're talking about. He's
Jimmy,
like, no.
Jimmy there. Yeah. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Oh, yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, we have. I didn't even see anyone online, and I don't know what happened. So,
well, you're here now, and we're just doing some introductions. Emma's here from Slovenia, and we just we just introduced ourselves there. So feel free to introduce yourself, and we'll let her get on with her show.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Jim, and I've got like the mainstream astronomy background. And then from that I came into the EU. I think that's it.
That's great.
Short and sweet.
I really like meeting astronomers, because astronomers are like a dead enemy, to astrologers. They really do not like astrologers because they say we don't know anything about, the sky, the planets, how they really move, and, all sort of stuff. And we don't even know, they say that we don't even know what the signs are, because there should be 15 or 14 or I don't know what, but this is just because astronomers normally don't know what astrological signs are, that they are not, that they are not constellations. Astrological signs actually have nothing to do with constellations. They only bear the same names, but also constellations were in the very beginning of the development of astrology. They were meant to be, just spaces in heaven, which were which were created out of the need to put planets in them, to know, Today we would say section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, or I don't know.
Exactly, that's what we would do today. You're absolutely right. Yeah. In Star Trek, they use sectors or something, but it doesn't make any difference. They just use the names
correct.
Of a nearby constellation. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, but they said Aries or they said Libra and stuff. So why did they say Aries? Because, and this is where I was coming now. What happens when the spring starts? Actually, the spring is the most courageous part of the year. It's the buds open, the nature wakes up. This is where I'm searching for words. So what happens is that there is new life coming out of the earth, coming out of the trees, the buds open, everything, the green comes up,
Right.
And there is also in the people, because, this is my point, which I really, would like to make a point of this. We people are part of nature. We are not something that is apart from nature, that is separated from nature. We are part of nature. And this is why, people who are born in the sign of Aries, people who come to the world in this first part of spring, which is called Aries, have this Aryan energy, have the energy of the nature as it is in the first 30 days of spring. So, obviously, people do not correspond. Their people's characteristics and temperaments do not correspond exactly to the characteristics of which are ascribed to the sign of Aries. This is just because the sun is just one criterion for judging the temperament. But the sun is the basic force in our nature. And if the sun is at one of those first 30 degrees of the spring period, it endows, the people born at that time with the energy of the spring, of the first part of spring. For example, you have probably read that the Aryans are courageous, headstrong, bold. They are not diplomatic. They just push forward. They don't turn left or right. They love to start new things, new ventures. They are best in the beginning of anything. Okay, so this is the basic characteristic of the sign of Aries. And now this is what is crucial, I think, to the understanding of how our reality works. That, everything that happens at a particular moment of time or in a certain period develops according to the qualities of that time. And the quality is always crucial, the quality of time, but the quality of time is determined by the sun. And there are two criteria. The first is whether the sun rises whether the days are getting longer, okay, and the second criterion is what part of a season is under consideration. Like during the spring, the sun rises, the days are getting longer. That's why the first part of the year, the spring, is creative. Okay, it's youthful, it's energetic, it's like growing towards something new. So all the people born in these three signs are, Taurus, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini have this strongly youthful, sometimes naive, courageous energy, and the Aries especially. And the name of Aries, the Aries are this is the goat, the goats were the first animals to be led on the fields when the spring began in those ancient Babylonian times. Headstrong, bold, fighting spirits. That's why this part of the time or this part of the sky was named Aries. Okay, the goat. And then comes Taurus. During the time of the zodiacal sign Taurus, these are the next 30 degrees until the beginning of Gemini. The earth, the vegetables, okay, and trees and everything that grows draws energy from the earth at its strongest. The vegetables and what's the word for vegetables and everything green, okay, everything that grows out of the earth, right. They need most food at that time, and they draw the minerals and water and food from the earth. They're hungry, okay. So also the people who have the sign of Taurus predominant in their chart, in their birth chart, like they have the sun here, of course, if they're born under Taurus, but also if other planets are here, they are strongly Taurian, okay? The moon might be here, or like 2 or 3 other planets, so the person would also have a Taurian character. So the Taurus is a very material sign. It's associated with the material growth. That's why people, Taurians, for example, have this energy, this capacity to earn a lot of money, to earn more than the others, or to have luck in the material sphere. They are capable of creating, okay, comfort life, creating a comfortable life for themselves and for the others. So the Taurus is the sign of the material growth. And this is just because the sun, okay, in that period is still prolonging its stay above the horizon. Okay, the days are growing longer, and the sun is getting higher, and it is the middle part of the spring. So, because it is the middle part, this has some strong, sturdy quality. It's like Taurians are considered to be headstrong, also. Very dedicated, strong, strong-willed. Yeah, that's the word. So these are. I won't go into every quality, into every character consideration or association now. I just want to stress the fact that our characters, or if you will, our creative capacity that we express as part of our nature, that all these things are dependent or are in direct association with the sun, with the power of the sun. Just generally, there was I think there was statistical research which proves that people born in the spring are livelier than people born in winter. Yeah. And this has everything to do with the sun, of course. You might say it has more to do with the conception period, which is 9 months before. But it has to do. But the most important thing is when people just get out of the body and starts to develop as their own individual entities. Well, anyway, when it comes to Gemini is the third stage, is the last stage of the spring, and all the last stages of the seasons are stages when the nature already prepares for the next season. So these people who are born in those stages, the first being Gemini, are more, ready to adapt to life circumstances. They are not so strong-willed. They are ready to change, like the nature is getting ready to change. They're ready to go here and there and ask questions and listen to others and communicate and share, So Gemini is considered to be a very communicative sign, people, because the sun is still growing towards the days are still getting longer. It's like Gemini is very inquisitive and very lively. Often they have a very lively and creative minds, and they're considered changeable. It's this changeability and the love of freedom and the love of going into various different directions is associated with the quality of the day that the sun creates, getting longer and getting even higher above the horizon each day. When Cancer begins, the summer begins. And here the sun starts its downward journey, okay? It is a strong change. It is a deciding change. And here, Cancer is the crab. The crab goes backwards, right? The crab doesn't go ahead, forwards, but the crab goes sideways, yeah? And because the sun goes back after it reaches the highest point, this is why the sign was named Cancer, okay? Just because the sun went down. So you see, our ancestors, the sky watchers living several thousand years ago, were not stupid. They did not see some creature that reminded them of the crab, constructed, out of those stars. It has nothing to do with the form of the crab.
So
everything was associated basically with the sun.
So if I may translate this in a few words, Emma, the signs that we give some attributes to, yeah, like you gave a few examples here, is a reflection or a signature almost of the position and the relationship of the sun at that particular moment to the earth, whether it's waxing or growing higher or going lower, all those things. And so we are kind of a reflection. But if I may ask here a question here, if this is true, and I'm more than ready to accept your explanation here, so from the crabs, for example, sounds like a very good explanation to me. But if we adopt those signs are not like you find the crab in a desert or in a mountain, or goats you find more or less in the mountain regions. Crabs you would find on shores or islands or something to that effect. Yeah. So this being very old, does this reflect, is this information across the earth? Can you find it across the earth, and is it developed across a large region or in very long time? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sorry, I don't.
Well, so you mentioned that the crab is there because the crab walked backwards or sideways, for example.
Yes.
That's an observation we made as human beings, right? And we gave that sign to that particular time.
Yes.
So, can you talk about at all? I don't know. Maybe it's a very obscure past. I don't know. But can you talk about the past? How this came to be? What is there a time frame that we can point to? This is when astrology started. From the knowledge that we have.
Nobody really knows. These are speculations. Nobody really knows. Nobody wrote that down. But because we only have really, excerpt, like something remade in Q&A form, some writings, but more about planets, like what weather they created and stuff, But if you meditate on the meaning of the signs' names, you must agree that this naming of the signs was only possible with the realization of what the sun does. For example, Libra is the equilibrium. Day equals night. It's equilibrium. It's not a scales in the heavens. It's nothing. It's just not, stupid logic to think like that. Equilibrium. It's like here the sun. It's the days are equal nights, exactly like they did at the vernal equinox. Only with the difference that here the sun went upwards and here the sun goes downwards. But here it's like equilibrium. It's the point exactly half a year later in time. And there are other considerations with the crab, because the crab is associated with family, with emotions, feelings, and feelings are associated with water. So this is like, water is the most nurturing, of course, element. We need water to survive. Of course, like we need the sun, but the water is associated with safety. And when the sun reaches its highest point, there is the realization in nature that when the sun starts to recede, there is the realization in nature that, the sun will not get higher, that the days are getting shorter. And when days are getting shorter, then we need to find a shelter. This is why the sign of Cancer means really, in a very real way, that it's associated with finding a shelter. And this we find when we create a family. And when you talk about Cancer, we say that they are family orientated, that they care a lot about their families, their kids, their partner, and stuff. And they are caring people, like in a very general way. And this again is a direct reflection of the kind of energy that is created by the diminishing sun. You know what I mean? By it's also because this, spring and summer are positive, creative periods. They are associated with life, with life, like living, eating, drinking, loving, having fun. It's more like vivacious and extroverted period. Whereas the autumn and winter period are more associated with our inner life, spiritual and mental and stuff like this. As I said, statistics or some research showed that people born in spring and summer show more lively characteristics than people born in winter and autumn. So, but my point is that the sun is the force which is working on this life in the way of creating qualities in people, in the way of creating their temperaments. So it's like we could say, okay, we are what we are because of our genes, because of what we get from our fathers, mothers, and other ancestors. Yes, it's true. It's true. But also our genes, our genetic predisposition is cosmically is linked to cosmic rules. So astrological rules are behind everything, also behind the genetical stuff. So it's like the sun pervades into just everything, It's not like something outside that which is our genetic predisposition and stuff. So then we come to Leo, the sign of the year, the part of the year when the sun is in this portion of the sky is the best in life. I hope you agree, because if you come, for example, to the Mediterranean region in late July or August, this is the time of Leo, the nature is at its best. It's warm. It's, there is plenty of everything, the food, the fruit. The days are long. The sea is warm. We have fun. Okay. And also there is, the happiness is, there is more happiness. Happiness is a direct, of course, people who have more serotonin in their body, who produce more serotonin, are happier. Okay. But, it has been researched. It has been, there was a research conducted, which proved there that serotonin is created by the help of the sun. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a direct correlation there. Yeah.
Correlation. Yeah. And the sun is at its most nurturing at the time of Leo. And Leo is considered, the proud. Leo is a proud animal. It's like, wow, when you see Leo, a lion, you say, wow, this is such a magnificent animal. And the nature is magnificent. And because the nature is at its best and most magnificent at the time of lion, the lion. And also people who are born there are so, they have this natural capacity to be happy and to be proud and kind of, I could speak in Slovenian. I can. They have, but
you're doing just wonderful.
Yes.
But maybe we can give you a breather and come up with some questions here or something.
Okay. Maybe I go shortly through all of the signs and
Sure.
So Leo is this big heart, big heart and creativity and pride and generosity. Yeah, because the nature is generous at that time. So people born there have this capacity to be and natural ability to be generous and stuff like that. So at the time of Virgo, which is the last, again we have here the last sign of season, and at the time of Virgo, the nature calls for work, for dedicated work. We need to clean the grounds, we need to clean the fields, a lot of work needs to be done. So, but it is also the time when a new season is approaching. So nothing really important happens at this time. It is kind of a bit melancholic. It's still summer, but it's not hot summer anymore. Something very nice is coming to an end and stuff. So Virgo is like the sign that is associated with the ability to scrutinize things, to be of a service to society. Also they have, they're very clever and stuff, but they often do not strive for important positions in life. They're happy to be just there when the others need them and to prove their, ability to think clearly and efficiently. Of course, there are other criteriums there are other criteria for, judging the qualities of the signs, but this is just the very basic one. This is the criterion that is created by the sun, by the sun's movement. And here we have equilibrium, the Libra, the scales, the first autumnal sign. Now, what happens in the consciousness of the cosmos? Let's say, if I can say like this, like what happens when the days start getting shorter than the nights, because this is what happens at the time of Libra. Now, definitely, this is a critical time, right? And whereas in during the first part of the spring, people were just, wow, you see, each day is longer, each day is warmer. Let's get out and let's do something. Here is like, let's get together and take care of each other. So Libra is the direct opposite, whereas Aries is all about individuality. Libra is all about duality, about let's come together, let's shelter each other, let us, like create a kind of a communal life. So Libra
well, we have to.
Yeah.
We have to, in preparation for winter, right? We have to come together, I guess.
That's it. And right now, is the Libran time. So people in like late September and October, there are many, events in the community that ask people to, come together, discuss things like we are doing now, for example, and become a community, because we will need each other in the long autumn and winter to come. And this is the first stage that asks for action in this sphere. Every first sign of each season asks for action in a certain direction, asks for a new action. That's why they are called cardinal signs. We have 4 cardinal signs, the beginning signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and then Capricorn. And Scorpio is the sign of crisis. The nature dies here. The nature dies, of course, not really, but the leaves fall down, and the life remains in the seeds. Okay, the seed, it's the time of the seed. So you probably know that the Scorpio is considered the most sexual sign. Why? Well, because at the time of Scorpio, there is a need in the nature and in human nature as well to reproduce, to get the seed over to the woman, so that she bears new children, which will be born, of course, in the springtime after 9 months. That would be actually at the time of Leo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Leo Cancer in the summer. Well, anyway, it's the 9 months period. So the Scorpio is a sign of a total, crisis, of the realization of the crisis that is coming, and the work that needs to be done to overcome the crisis. That's why the Scorpions are known to be most efficient when there is some critical situation arising. When there is some danger, and then there comes Scorpio and says, I can defend me and you and us. I can, the defense, the self-defense is strong. And then comes the Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is like each last sign of a season. It's the time of preparing for the new season. So Sagittarius still has a way to go towards the lowest period, which is 0, Capricorn, the winter solstice. So the Sagittarius is like a researcher. All last signs are researchers. It's like, let's see how long can we still go, or how far can we still go before there is a definite change. So the definite change will come at 0 Capricorn. Now, these last 30 days before this change are the time of going further, looking what there is still to learn, to do, to whatever. And the Sagittarius has been called the sign of a traveler, of the traveler, of traveling, of also of philosophy, of it's a mental sign of mental capacity, and the sign of truth seekers, like people who seek the truth, and people who are able to communicate ideas to others, like professors, teachers, publishers, and stuff. So, and then we have the first winter sign, Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is the mountain goat, and the mountain goat is the animal which can climb highest, right? If you ask, if you ask anyone which animal can climb highest, they will tell you the mountain goat. And here, the sun from here has the highest climb to do to the Tropic of Cancer again, right? the sun, when it is in Capricorn, has the longest way to go. Okay? So here, the sun needs to be like a mountain goat. You know? So that's why this was called the mountain goat. And this sign. And of course, now it's deep winter. There is no sunshine. There is coldness and everything. So the Capricornians are considered to be cold. Of course, they are not, but but they have this capacity to react in very objective ways. They have this capacity for long-term planning and organizing. They have the best organizing ability. You know, most directors and managers and CEOs, or let's say the most successful people in this field, have many planets in Capricorn, or also politicians or people who need to organize and rule others. Okay, because the coldness is also associated with the ability to rule over others. In the same way that vulnerability and emotions, which are ascribed to people who are born in the summer, make people vulnerable and weak in a way. Okay, so here is our emotions and happiness and cheerfulness, but here is seriousness and kind of inability to relax let's say interpersonal relations or so. And then comes this sign Aquarius, which is the sign of the researcher. Aquarius is opposed to Leo, and whereas the Leo is the proudest animal, the Aquarians are the least proud, but don't take it in as an offense. It's not, they are not arrogant, they are not full of themselves, but they are mostly evolved in the way of true people. So that the Aquarius is like the sign. At this time there is already no food. Okay, the food has been eaten, and there are no resources, very very little resources. So the Aquarius has to think hard, and that's why the Aquarius, or people who have many planets in Aquarius, truly are researchers, and they have this inventive ability to invent new things. Because at this time of the year, you have to be clever to survive. Okay? Yeah. And interestingly, many astronomers have planets in Aquarius. Like they're interested in what is behind, because Leo is mostly interested in what is here, and Leos and Cancers and other people born in summer, they are very much of this earth. Whereas Aquarians often strive to overcome, this borders. They want to know what is behind that which is visible, and so then we have the Pisces. Pisces is the last sign. It's like the sign of the ocean, the sign of that undefined reality which precedes the spring. So the last time, the last part of the winter, when everything is already wet and the snow melts, the rivers are full, there are lots of water, and water is associated with feeling and with subconsciousness and with intuition and with spirituality. So Pisces are considered to be spiritual, so they more sense things than mentally. They are very spiritual and feeling, and now one emotion associated with late spring is now I won't remember the word. They're full of hopefulness, hopefulness.
Optimism.
Sorry,
yeah.
Optimism, yes, but more in the way of longing for something, like longing, hoping, not in a very cheerful way, but like in the way that you sense that you hope to. Well, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
There is a word, a definite word, but I'm not looking for it now.
Anxious, anxiety.
No. Well, kind of. It could be anxiety because the Pisces period is the most vulnerable of all because it has least physical energy. Okay, the physical energy starts here when the days start getting longer than nights. This is when the sun is really gaining, its force. The winter, if I can, let me get back to the winter solstice, is on 21st of December each year. And we know that a couple of days later, like 23rd or 24th or 25th of December, our ancients were able to observe at those days that the sun is actually, the days are actually starting getting longer. Okay? Because until this day, the days were getting shorter. This is the longest night. And each subsequent day, the day gets a bit longer. So it was like they realized around the 25th of December, wow, they measured the length of the day and they said, wow, the day is getting longer. The Christ is born,
I've heard that one before, yeah.
Yeah, but it's true, it's true. It's this, the experience of the life force, of the sun's force, on a very basic level.
The rebirth. Right?
The rebirth, yeah, that's the word that came up to me too, yeah.
It's the definite rebirth of the sun. And all the pagan religions had this, they celebrated the birth of some kind of a hero at that time. Well, anyway, what I wanted to stress is that the fact that whereas the sun's path is this is what this picture is what I showed you before. Only that it's not an ellipse; it's a circle. Here is the Earth. This is an astrological chart. The Earth is here, and we present all these 12 signs here on this circle. Around this circle, this is the 0 areas, and this is the symbol of the sun. The sun entered Aries on the 20th March 2018 and at 5:15 p.m. in Ljubljana, Slovenia. That is our time. It was CET -1. So anyway, the sun was then at 0 areas, 0 degrees and 0 minutes. And this is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Now, people who are born under Aries, of course, have their sun somewhere here. Okay, Taurians have it somewhere here, and Gemini somewhere here. Okay. Now, and this is the point that I wanted to make with this presentation, because I'm getting long and I will stop shortly here. I just wanted to say this. You might feel comfortable with my explanation, okay? You might say, okay, that is logical. It could be logical. I agree. Yeah, the sun can have this power. But what is strange is another astrological truth. Namely, you can see all these symbols here. They all represent planets, okay? Or the moon. This is the moon. The moon is here in Taurus. This is Uranus is in Aries. Venus is in Aries. Mercury in Aries. Neptune in Pisces. Mars in Capricorn. Saturn in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn. Jupiter in Scorpio. Now, when we say, for example, the moon is very important in every astrological chart because it shows the way how we react emotionally. The moon is in Taurus. Now, what about the moon? The moon doesn't give us the light. The moon doesn't the moon doesn't form or let's say the moon doesn't give the quality to the time in the same manner as the sun. But still, this part of the sky, which is called Taurus, still has the energy of the second part of the spring, which means that actually when the sun passes through Taurus or through any of the signs, that the sun creates an energy field which is being picked up by the other planets when they traverse those signs. You know what I mean? So this is this level of this is important to understand, to comprehend what actually astrology is about. What actually astrology tells us. It says that the space has quality, okay, has some kind of qualities that are being created by the sun, and that the space remembers the qualities. I don't know how to express. I will say differently. I will say, for example, when the sun goes through Aries, it colors it red, okay? It leaves the red color behind. Here in Taurus, it can leave. Let's say when the sun goes through Taurus, it colors the whole space in green, for example. And let's say that the red is anger and fire and power and aggression. That's it. Let's say that the green is like a beauty and warmth and niceness and I don't know, all kind of nice qualities. So it's different. So when the moon goes through the portion of the sky that was imbued with the sun's energy at the time, the moon takes over this energy, and the moon says, "Okay, I behave the same. I behave now like the sun behaved when it was here. I will be like the sun." Because this is actually how it seems that the planets work. So
there's actually something to that in the sense that each planet has its own frequency and it sounds the same. You can tell that, but if for example, just thinking about it from the vantage point that I'm on Earth, if I would look out and see all of these in one direction, for example, the sun's in that direction, the moon is in that direction. A few of the planets are in that direction. There will be more. In actuality, if I was looking at this just like something that Maxwell might draw up, I would note that there is more charge or more charges in that direction, and they have different now frequencies because they are all vibrating and combining their frequencies together. Before that, I'll say, for lack of a better term, sound hits me or the vibration hits me here on Earth. So I can, in that sense, see that there might be some relationship. This is the part that gets me, because I can see that people, especially in the ancient times, personified these wanderers, and obviously the sun has a significant impact, as you said, on life on Earth, clearly. But it is the combination thereof of these. Perhaps the resonance that comes up with it, or perhaps maybe something like that could actually physically, and I mean maybe not like indirect, but the way that we referred to people as lunatics because they would go crazy at the full moon, that type of thing. There's clearly a possibility of some sort of thing that the humans are picking up that we can't. Or even other animals are picking up that we can't hear yet, so to speak. So.
Yes. Correct. I'm just saying what I'm saying is that obviously our reality is so much different from what is being acknowledged. Because, for example, if now Mars and Saturn, 3 planets, and Pluto are in Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of the winter, and Saturn is the sign of the cold. So this means that the winters are going to be cold as long as Saturn is in the winter sign. This is like, one kind of possible prediction. And what is strange is that people's characters, for example, when I read a natal chart, I can read, the person's temperament, outward appearance, and the way their emotion works, the way their sexuality works, the way their feeling nature works, and emotional natures and stuff, everything can be read out from the chart. So obviously, and all astrologers do that, of course, those able astrologers, which unfortunately are not very many on this earth, because as I said, there's very little, education, quality education on astrology, unfortunately. So, but theoretically and sometimes practically, it's possible to actually deduct, it's perfectly possible to deduct our whole energy potential from the positions of the planets. And what is particularly interesting to me is the incredibly strong role that the sun has in all of this. Because after all, the sun is at the center of our, system, and the sun actually creates the reality. The sun's energy is by far the strongest. And my point is that the sun creates the quality of the zodiacal signs in a much stronger way that even astrologers are ready to confess. So that's why I was attracted to the theory of the electric universe, the theory of the electric sun, because I thought there must be a way to sometime in the future, the ability to actually measure, the kind of qualities I would expect in the future that people would develop, scientists would develop instruments that would show that the sun, when it goes through Aries, vibrates with different quality, with different character, than it does when it goes through Taurus, through Gemini, and so on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That it would maybe if the sun is if those are electrical waves, maybe in the future scientists will discover that there are many kinds of different psychologically different electrical waves.
That has not escaped me. In fact, that's the idea that we've gone through events like this is part and parcel. It's some of the we'll say Velikovskian ideas. One of them involves, for example, the Tower of Babel myth, where everyone was struck dumb and unable to speak. Some people think that was actually a connection between two worlds. Now, if that can have that kind of effect on human anatomy, and this is not proven, of course, just, the other ideas where we test that humans are separated from this field and they go wonky. They have, they're no longer inside the biosphere of the earth. They feel separated from it. They start losing their rhythms and their cycles and so forth. So all this does sort of play into it. I can envision that there's a reason, and people were concerned about this. So in the past, it might have been even worse. Who knows? Maybe we're just lulling ourselves into a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. We base our reality on our memories, not on our visions. And yeah.
Well, yeah, go, Heather.
Sorry, I was just a couple things. There used to be a meter. It was a magnetometer that showed the magnetic connection from each planet and where it was directly located on the sun. But Davidson used to show it in the morning news every day, and they took it away. It's no longer there. But there is some sort of instrument that directly connects, that reads where on the surface of the sun each planet is magnetically connecting. So that might be a good place to start. I've been griping about the absence of this meter since they took it down like 2 years ago.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. Do you have a link to?
I can dig one up for you. I don't have one right. There is a technological something happening today because everybody's been having blurbs and my computer is like skipping. But I will be happy to put one in the comment afterward, just so that my computer, because I keep losing you guys. And then there's also last week I was asking Eugene about the some people saying that we're within the energetic circumference of Jupiter 100% of the year, and the other in Saturn for 6 months of the year, for 50% of the year. And there was like, no, the magnetospheres of them are this big. This is how far away. This is how we read them. But the interesting thing that came out in that conversation was that there is a cosmic ray connection that's happening much faster than the speed of the solar wind. Eugene, you said it was like 30 minutes it took for the cosmic ray information to reach us or to reach the sun.
Well, I was talking about the energetic particles from the sun. I'm not sure how long it would take for the particles from Jupiter to arrive here, but it's entirely possible that even particles of such high energies are also coming here. But even if not, well, it's like maybe even for like a regular cold plasma, so to speak, it would only take maybe a week to reach us from Jupiter.
Okay. So,
but again, if there are like highly energetic particles of several mega electron volts energies, then yeah, they would be here in a couple of hours, I would say.
And that's not even counting what the effects of, say, like the EM frequencies arriving that are coming off of Jupiter. It generates its own radio frequencies. They're coming at light speed, and they can. I don't want to say taint, but I could envision that they could have an effect on how our field is vibrating. I can just picture it. I don't know. I mean, Eugene's the expert, so. Or more of an expert than any of us here, anyway.
Well, we were mentioning in one of the previous discussions those huge electric currents that run between Jupiter and Io, for example, and that's one hell of a radio antenna right there, actually.
Yeah, actually,
and,
you're right.
I mean, with an amateur radio, you can pick the signal up just sitting at home, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. The astrological reality is even much more complicated, because in astrology we even equate units of time. We say that what happens within a day happens in a human life within a year, and it works. It's like the timing, the everything.
Right. This harmonic relationship is really coming through a lot to us. So we're seeing that, there's mappings for the spherical harmonics, etc., and they scale really interestingly, like particularly like exactly what you're talking about, where you can kind of see the same cyclic behavior over a day that you see over a year, or that you see over the big cosmic cycle. The 24,000, 26,000.
Oh yes. This is the big year of 20,000 years when the precession of the equinoxes does full circle. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Jim has studied that pretty deeply, so we've discussed that a bit too.
Yeah, everything pulsates with some energies, and we just need some time to be able to measure them. But it's starting. I think we might come very, very far in a couple of decades, in a decade maybe. So
yeah, it feels that way. It feels it's pretty exciting times.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that the way I do astrology is I see the results, I see that the techniques work, and there must be, and for me astrology is no mysticism, is nothing that can't be explained by science. But in the future, not yet. I mean, we can't know.
Do you take into account the solar cycles, the sunspots, and so on?
No, because just because this is not part of the astrological tradition. What I do is I research other things, mainly it would be interesting, but that's a new thing to me. It's a new field of study. I simply do not have enough time to do everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get all my, I don't know, with these planets and with all the techniques that I use, I just have enough information to deduct, the meanings that I want, but a day only has 24 hours, and for me, it's really difficult to keep up,
Yeah.
Just,
okay. Well, I'm just curious, how this basically 11, 12-year solar cycle basically coincides with, for example, Chinese, like 12-year Zodiac and so on. And
yes.
I don't know if you've ever read about it, but there was a paper not very long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, where the people were evaluating the overall global, what they called happiness index. And basically they were analyzing Twitter and counting, the positive and negative words in simple terms. And so they constructed this value of happiness index from this. And what they found was that there was a really strong correlation with the solar cycle. Mm-hmm. In particular, when there was a solar minimum, that means less sunspots, which also means more cosmic rays, by the way, but that's a different topic. So when there's less solar activity, the happiness index was higher than when there were more sunspots. And for example, the last solar minimum was 2008 to 2009, and we're also now heading into the solar minimum. And perhaps that would also affect like human mood in a positive way, where people would become more calm and so on. And for example, if you remember the political events of the like recent years, the Crimea crisis, the ISIS and stuff, it all happened during the solar maximum of 2014 and 15. I
would expect that solar maximum creates like more stress or what's the word? Excitement, right? Maybe. Or aggression in this way.
Yeah, perhaps aggression, because again, as these guys have shown, the like positive words are becoming less prevalent during solar maximum. So it's more like, anger and fear spread much faster. Well, they always spread faster, but in solar maximum, it's particularly strong.
Well, I've always wondered, though, what the effects of the outer planets or even the inner planets are on the surface, like on the solar weather. We know that the solar weather affects the planets, but how do the planets affect the solar weather? And as the outer planets are more generational in astrology speaking, because they have a slower movement, larger circumference, they affect us on larger scale. How do the placements of the outer planets affect the solar cycles and the sunspot minimums and things? Like if the sun is got its year, which is like say 11 or 12 year cycle, how is that affected in relation to the outer planets cycles?
Well, did you ask? Are you asking me?
I guess I'm just asking, like, if anybody's got any input on this. Is a question that I've had and I've been trying to see how they correlate. You were talking.
I'm not researching the sun cycle, so I wouldn't know about that. I wouldn't know about this, the solar minimums and maximums. I'm not very good at this. I practically have no knowledge.
How long is Pluto in a sign? Because I heard that your presentation was about how
Jupiter is 1 year in one sign. Okay, that's geocentrically speaking. Like it takes 12 years to circle the whole on Saturn 28 years, so approximately 2.5 years in a sign. And Uranus is 84 years, so 7 years in one sign. Neptune is 144 years through the signs, so that will be like 144 divided by 12 is like 13, 14 years or something. And Pluto is speeding up. Pluto was 240 years. It took 240 years to circle the zodiac, but it's speeding up. It has sped up during later decades. So I think it has the same movement, pretty much the same as Neptune nowadays. But I wouldn't know how this affects the weather. But definitely the planets affect the trends in society. For example, ever since Neptune entered Pisces, Pisces is the sign of, spiritualism and mysticism and stuff. And Neptune is the planet with the same kind of meaning, with the same kind of level of mysticism and otherworldliness. And so the energies of Neptune and Pisces combine, making them double strong. That's why. But this was I must actually check Neptune. I have this, my program which says, which shows me. Let me edit and find Neptune. I'll just do this so to be quicker. So it's Neptune, and we can see select, and we will say 2000, and we will take like 20 years, and we will see. This is Neptune, as seen from Earth. And here it was in Aquarius. So it's been in Pisces since 2011 or 12. So let's say since 2012, the spirituality, the mysticism, all the stuff that I personally do not like because it takes us away from reality, is on the rise. Is on the rise, and people are, they believe more in spirituality as they did in,
a little bit more gullible.
Gullible, yeah, thank you for the word. Yes, gullible. Right. Gullible is the side effect, and this will stop in 2025.
Oy.
Maybe I can choose. This opportunity to show you the cycle of Jupiter, because now everyone is expecting like the next when the next stock market crash is taking place. There is a field of astrology called financial astrology, and in finances, Jupiter is most important planet to observe. So it's here, and measured in the ecliptical system of measurements. If we measure Jupiter in latitude, latitude is the distance of planet above or below the ecliptic, the sun's line. Okay, and this shows to be very important in financial, movements. So if we go like from 2000, and let's go for 30 years, for example, and we will see Jupiter. Now the zero line is the line of here. That's the line of the sun, the line of the ecliptic. Okay, and excuse me, I must change this to let's say 3 degrees, because this was not very readable now. Can you see this? Imagine that here, from here to here is a straight line. Okay, This is the demarcation line. It's the zero. This is the line of the sun, the ecliptic. So you will see that in the year 2028, okay, the Jupiter. This is Jupiter line. Jupiter as it goes below the ecliptic and above the ecliptic, and here it crossed the ecliptic in 2008. This is when we had the stock market crash. Remember, the recession began, and the recession took, and this is directly related to Jupiter's path, and because Jupiter at that time crossed the ecliptic and went down below the ecliptic. It's like similarly to, in a way, similar to when the sun goes from Virgo to the sun itself, from Virgo to Libra, although that's a different a system of measurements. But here it's below the demarcation line, and so we had this recession which lasted a couple of years, and it reached its bottom in 2000. In the States, it was 2010. In other countries, 2011 or 12. But now the recession is over, and 2014, 15, 16, 17 is, no recession, stocks are high, values are high, we have the bull, okay? But according to Jupiter, the Jupiter is heading downwards again. See? Here we have...
it's going pretty much down from here on out.
20. 2020, it's in March exactly. In March, it crosses this line. And March of 2020 is going to be a very, very important period when things will not go as expected. And there could be another stock market crash. I just read a couple of days, maybe yesterday, that some financial people from the world of finances who are not astrologers or any kind of forecasters, only they are forecasters, but not based on astrology or any other field as such. But they predict someone who is considered to be a reliable, knowledgeable, person in this field predicted that 2020 is going to be the next market crash. So it aligns with my own perspective on this, and so we should maybe take notice, make notice of this and take heed and prepare for another stress. They say that it's not going to be big as 2008, but I think it's going to be big, and we'll see. Each period you can win. Even if markets fall, you can win by maybe putting your money into gold or whatever. But there is a cycle here. And I did this research also for other years, like 1984, and there was 1996. The same thing happens. Not crashes every time, but there was a crash, I think, in 1986. Yeah, when Jupiter was at its lowest, or pretty much, or was it 1987? Do you remember?
Well, it's not so difficult to accept this if, you make the relationship, of course, with character, emotions, completely correlate, or very strongly correlating in how you explain it to astrology. And if there is something that is dictated by emotion, it's the financial market,
Oh, yes. And Jupiter is the planet of optimism. It's the planet which creates optimism. And Jupiter, by the way, correlates with the sun's, with the solar minimum and maximum, what's his name? The guy from Belarus?
Eugene.
Eugene. Yeah. You see, because that's the 12-year cycle. Jupiter Jupiter's cycle relates directly to the sun's cycle. Like
yeah, they're really close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 12-year cycle. So it has to do with and the sun in astrological symbolism has always been related also to money. Of course, sun is gold, money. And Jupiter to optimism and so here in I think it was 1986 when there was in October. You see October. You see here, in October, it fell right down, and the Jupiter was at its lowest. So these are the times of change, of crisis, of the rise and fall of human, of human expectations and optimism or pessimism or whatever. And I'm not a financial astrologer, but I do research these things and it is interesting, yes. So I just said this because I thought you might find it interesting.
Well, thank you very much for all this work that you shared with us, and I've never heard an explanation the way you gave it. I think it's fascinating, and it's for me it convinces me that astrology is, as you explain it, strongly correlated or related or a reflection of nature and the energies that are there, and they are reflecting in our character, if you will. At least that's kind of what I made of it, right? All these connections are there. So, we are very strongly connected to nature still. I like that.
It's a bit disconcerting to see the actual, to think that we're all like an electrically tuned sheet of plasma dancing on the surface of a ball that is related to, you just turn a knob and it goes, look, I'll make them all dance. And they just turn the knob and they all go dancey. And
Yeah. Yeah, but it is like that. But for me, it's liberating, For me, it's liberating because I know that every second, every minute, every second has somehow been predetermined, and for me it's liberating because it takes away my fear, my guilt, I don't know, it's a special kind of, when people let's say realize that we are only expressions of some outwards energies that pervade us, that make us be what we are. When you realize this, you lose fear. That's at least how it works for me. It makes you realize that you're part of the cosmos, because I think being too, locked up into yourself and feeling like you are an individual with strong borders between you and the world and and other people. This creates isolation and loneliness. So I think the wisest way to live is what, incidentally, maybe Eero from Finland. He's here in Slovenia. I met him in England at the Bath conference, and he's meeting some people here in Slovenia, in Bled. And as part of this travel to Slovenia, he called me, asked if we could meet, and I looked up his chart and stuff. So yesterday we met just yesterday. We walked up a hill here close to my city, and so we talked. And this guy, he really lives what he believes. He is an astrophysicist. He worked as a researcher at the Helsinki University, and then he realized, I think it was following the meditation or maybe some, I don't know, even some mushroom stuff or something, mushroom. And, anyway, after experiencing the inner kind of light, which told him that it's useless to live by your principle and running for money and never having enough of it and running for security, when you are not really happy when you do what you do, but you do it because society told you that you must save this and that money and kind of was, stuff like this. Then he decided to just stop working because he was not, he wasn't happy with what he was doing. The physics bored him, and he also found obviously the electric theory, the electric universe. Then he said that from then on he just stopped working, left the job, and then he said when he learned how to live in the present moment without any planning and expectation, but just trusting that the universe will lead you where it is best, because the universe knows. If we believe in astrology, if we accept this, then we must know that we do not know that there is some other intelligence or outer force which knows best what is good for us at a certain time, and that this force will pull him towards what is best for him without him, planning it with his mind, with his conscious mind. And from then on, he just travels the world. He's happy. He always gets money. He is like he lives comfortably and without worries.
Well, some would call it the fool's journey, right?
Yeah, the fool's journey maybe, but
which is a very beautiful journey, by the way.
Excuse me, just out of curiosity, can you show us the graph, the same graph like with Jupiter, but for Saturn?
Of course.
I'm just curious how it looks.
Yeah.
Especially since one's above and below the ecliptic. I wondered if that had anything to do with it too, because if you were, you would be perhaps maybe, for lack of a better term, pulling more power through the solar system if you were on the top side or the bottom side, stuff like that. I pictured, but we're just getting there. We're just learning this stuff.
So Saturn reaches, I think, more than 3 degrees. So no, just about 3.
Definitely a different graph.
Saturn is about limitations and borders and discipline and rules and rulership. So here it is.
We're just about to go below the zero.
And listen, it also has to do with politics. Saturn is a planet of regulations and politics. And now when I see it topping in the 2012, 11, 12, this is when the Syrian war started. It was about the change of governments, 11, 12, 13. But this is all in the Middle East, and it's not like in... Saturn is going to cross, yes, in...
So basically in 2020, they synchronize with Jupiter in this downward motion, right?
Oh, yes. And Jupiter will also conjunct in the longitudinal system. It will conjunct Pluto. Pluto is the planet of endings, of crisis. And Jupiter conjuncting Pluto means, I think the same. The stock market crash, which might be worse than 2028. Also with Saturn lining in and stuff, it's not going to be nice. This is already in January. So there will be changes, maybe even influencing politics. Like this might go hand in hand with some, political crisis.
Yeah, there will be elections in the U.S. in 2020, right?
Okay.
No?
I think.
Yep.
I know a guy from Russia who does cyclical analysis of stuff. It's kind of, not very astrologically founded, but more in terms of calendar. So he continues to talk about for years now that there should be a civil war in the United States in 2020s, in 2024 or something like that. I don't want to start any fear mongering.
Oh, don't worry about it. Pamela Anderson had an entire movie about this called Barbed Wire. People were escaping to Canada. It was great.
The fear-mongering is already there.
Wait. There's another movie, Escape from L.A. No, Escape from New York.
Escape from New York.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all similar in that vein. That's all I meant.
Well,
even if the fear applies to yourself, we'll just make a movie about it.
Exactly. We'll just make a movie. We'll be all fine. We'll deal with it that way. We'll process it. Anyway, go on. Sorry for interrupting.
Maybe just not to stick to our plans too much. Well, anyway, I was researching I think that China is going to play a role in that crisis. This is due to, I think there will be an eclipse above China. This is how I do eclipses. If you're interested in this, we do locational astrology. We do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I do it. I do a lot of research in various fields of astrology, and we do, hang on, I must just close this, like eclipses. We have these eclipses, and solar eclipses are very powerful. Now, 2019 is not going to be, nothing like in particular, no powerful changes or anything taking place, but this eclipse, preceding the January, February, March period of 2020. This is the solar annual eclipse on the 26th of December at 4 Capricorn. And Capricorn, eclipses in Capricorn tend to, this is solar annular. This is powerful because annular is like total. Only that the sun, the moon is at apogee, so we have a circle around the sun because the moon is too small to cover the whole of the sun. So with annular eclipse we have this circle around the sun, which is left, but it's practically the same as total eclipse. And Capricorn is about government. So solar eclipse in Capricorn will tend to work on, some governmental thing. And let us locate this eclipse. When we locate the eclipse, we can see which parts of the world it's going to affect most. And normally this happens in the period following the eclipse. I will just correct this. I will now open the map of the world. Rectangular, and I will center it. Let's say center it on America. Doesn't really matter where it's centered. And now we will bring in the eclipse of, this is the one. No, 26 December 2019. And total eclipse line, and let us take partial eclipse lines. And yeah, now I must center it on, hang on, I will center it on Europe for a better view. Here on Europe. Yeah, you see, this is the eclipse line, and here over China, the eclipse will be on the midheaven, meaning that the eclipse will strongly influence China, but it will be close to Jupiter. That's why I think that this eclipse will favor China. Like will work in a positive way for China. So I think that, if I was advising, the president of the United States, I would say strike some good deals with China. Do not.
Or maybe what I'm hearing from you is that China has the wind in the back, if you will.
Maybe, yes. But it's not my final word on this. I was just researching this recently, so I thought I must, put more research into this. But what is obvious is that China is going to be affected. And also, here, the states, Washington and New York, they will have the solar eclipse on the IC. That means affecting the government, surely. Yeah, the elections will take place. And I think there will be someone else. I don't think that, he's going to be reelected, Trump. I don't think. Well, anyway, there is a story, which should be delineated somehow, but it's too early, for me. It just maybe a hint, to watch what happens in China. So,
is the red line like the center point of the eclipse, and then
well,
where the maximum is?
Yeah, that's the maximum effect, but things also happen along the lines which are on the same. Well, this is the east and this is the west point of the eclipse, or is it vice versa? I'm not sure. Or is this west and this east? This is west, obviously. This is east. Well, and then if we draw the straight line here, horizontal line, so all the places along this line tend to get affected by the eclipse in the following year, in the year to come. And so we have more earthquakes along these regions and volcanic outbreaks. And there is another line drawn through this point. So we have a long belt of activity going here. And we draw the line here through, vertically, and another one here vertically. And it's a difficult work, but I have researched many of these eclipses, and it's fascinating. It's fascinating how things are developing, crises and changes, big global changes. And the longer the eclipse is, the stronger the changes. For example, we had the longest eclipse of this century, of the last maybe 100 years, took place in this will have to 2010. In 2010, here is the duration. You see, 11 minutes. This was a solar annular, again like a total eclipse, on 15th January 2010. This was very, very powerful, and it took place. It was in Capricorn. You see, 8 years ago, 9 years. Of course, they change every 9 years. You see, it was also in Capricorn, which I said were governments and the overthrow of monarchies, if you want. And this was exceptionally strong because it lasted 11 minutes. Normally, eclipses last from, half a minute to a couple of minutes, like here. This was very strong, and let me open it for you. So, eclipse, you find it here. Yeah, this is the one, central annular. So, this is the eclipse. You see, now I told you that the places that are affected by the eclipse are those along the eclipse line itself. And those, if you draw a line from here straight toward here, you come right over, the line goes exactly through Tripoli, that is Libya, and Iran, Iraq, Syria, because Syrian war broke out, or the wars. Now first, if eclipse is 11 minutes long, it means basically that it will affect the next 11 years. But it shows strongest force in the beginning, the first year, or the first 1, 2, or 3 years. And we know that in 2011, that is immediately after the eclipse, there was the war in Libya. That was the so-called Arabian Spring, the overthrow of monarchies. And all the rest followed, and it ended quite good for several of these countries, like for Egypt and for Libya. The crisis didn't take long. I mean, it's still ongoing. The crisis is still ongoing, but the worst is here in Syria, and of course Iraq and Iran. And there was the earthquake here, you see, in Honshu Island, a couple of months after the eclipse. That was the strongest earthquake on record. I think we all remember the Honshu earthquake of magnitude 9. That was on this line, see? It's all the same latitude. It's a geographical thing,
These are fascinating correlations. Yeah.
Yes. And when you study this, you spend hours behind the computer,
So just your software there is fascinating, what you can project here. I've never seen anything like this, so you're blowing me away.
Scientific astrology right here. You don't see that. Look at all the charts and the movement of the planets. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. I don't get to see it, like, as you said, Edwin, very interesting. Don't get to see it very much.
Yeah. And when you research this, you see that, for example, they also had, for example, here, this is the eclipse, right? This sun, moon, and the node over the Indian continent, and the eclipse went over here, and they had, in that season, they had extremely strong hurricane season. They had lots of rainfall and torrential rains and stuff like this. So many people died, and but it's difficult. It's not that easy. If you want to predict like correctly, you have to have a lot of knowledge, which you will not. I say it again, which you will not find among modern astrologers, because they still fight with with which zodiac is true. Is it tropical or sidereal?
Right.
Which is about fighting about basic stuff. But it's possible. I'm just showing to you that it is possible. I've been doing this. I've been discovering fascinating results and facts. And of course, I'm also trying to write about these things, but never have enough time. But yeah, trying.
Well, and I think we should come to a close. We've been having quite a long session already, especially you. You're talking so much, Emma.
I get excited, when I start and like, look at this.
Oh, we love that kind of attitude, excitement about something like this. This is really exciting. Maybe some other day we could go into some more connections there. I can count like 3 or 4 connections already that have not even touched upon the great year cycle, so the 25,000 year cycle. I know Jim has something to say about that. We can go into that. We can go into, you mentioned it a little bit, I believe it was Uranus, Neptune, I'm not sure which one they were, that have to do with, extreme long cold winters, etc. We talked about that a little bit in Bath, I remember.
This is also like the eclipses, for example, when you have eclipses on Saturn, this tends to create cold winters, and it's there are many different influences that but eclipses are the most powerful, really.
Right.
The comet
I think it's
information
fascinating.
is really interesting too.
I actually have a couple of comments, although I'm not sure if they would be appropriate. But if you're going to have another discussion like on Tuesday, I won't be available then, so maybe I'll just put it out now.
Sure.
That's what my idea was.
we can do it, a couple of weeks or whatever down the.
As for myself, I don't know when I will be available to, because I'm really so very busy, especially now towards the end of the season, the year, with my, all the work that I'm doing. And, maybe I will join you with some other discussion, and we'll see how we go.
Sure,
there's really appreciate
definitely
you
no
joining us
pressure
today.
here. And if you don't have time, you don't have the time. And if you feel you do have the time and you wish to share some of your ideas, or you want to join in for a little bit more casual talk, you're more than welcome to join us. And I'm pretty sure we can keep in touch here and see how it works out.
If someone is interested in some other stuff here, I have a blog which hang on, this is my sloop. This is not this is on the blog side. I don't write blogs very often because I don't have time. I'm concentrating on books, but this one is interesting, might be interesting, the 2018 Pluto challenge, because this is where we are now, because Pluto is crossing the ecliptic, and maybe I'm not going into it now, but if you want to, read it, just go to my page and go to, this is an article that I wrote with a view to, people who are not astrologers, trying to write it in the way that, people could understand. So this is like it's a research, it touches upon the so-called climate change and the history of, everything. And this is something for those.
So this is where Pluto crosses the ecliptic plane and goes down in those graphs.
That will be this October, yes, which is going to be, this October is going to be another critical month. And this is, it's here, 2018 October, you see. Pluto crosses the ecliptic. But Pluto works more on a very global level, so that we might, it should be interesting to observe what processes start here, in October. There might be even a new cryptocurrency coming out. If it will, it's going to be very important, very powerful, because what is created here, it's going to play a strong role in the future, mind you, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's not clear whether it's positive or negative role.
It's not positive. Sadly, unfortunately, I will say these crossings were not very positive in the past. Here, for example, I have the years when this happened. The last was now this is the longitude, but this is the latitude. The last one was in 1930. We had the great stock market crash in 1929, and in 1930 the Great Depression started in the States and also worldwide. Okay, so and it's, if you read it, everything is written here, but the last one was not good. No, definitely not. But I don't like to scare people or scare myself or scare whoever. But it is critical changes, are taking place now. Still, some good things are developing too. So we'll see. We'll see what comes up. It's really difficult to predict when you have only a couple of crossings in the history available for research, especially when you have practically close to nothing for 1275. It's the history on this is scarce, or I would have to go to the libraries and research,
I did wonder about Pluto because, I do see him sometimes in the chart, but given that there are several bodies that are larger than Pluto that we don't even talk about that are wandering around, perhaps, if we do find out that Pluto does play a role, perhaps in the future we find out using methods that we realize that there is a charge or something or some other effect that is transferring. Then other Plutoids, they're called, I guess, would have to be taken into account as well, I guess. So, Eris, stuff like that.
At least we're registering X-rays from Pluto.
Oh, that's something, yeah. There you go. I didn't know that.
Yes.
What actually caught my attention on this graph is 1930 is also the year of discovery of Pluto.
Yes,
That's pretty interesting.
Because it was on the ecliptic and it was like more visible. It was...
right. They were looking at the ecliptic line, of course. That's where you look for planets.
Yeah, that's why.
Of course.
Yeah, but when you talk about X-rays and stuff, in astrology, Pluto, in a hard, difficult aspect to personal planets, is associated with cancer, causing cancer. I have personally observed this, and I know that, and we all know that in recent years, when the Pluto is more active, and these are these years, which are like from 2028, from 2028 until now, that the cancer is on the rise. It's more, cancer patients than and of course they say that this is the result of the environmental changes and chemicals and stuff and healthy living and stuff, but it's not only. I do associate it with Pluto. So this is the danger, period. Another, I don't know how many years. If you read the articles, you will see it. But Pluto is not. Pluto is good. Is good as far as the research goes, and science and discoveries and deep transformations and global changes. But often before something good happens, there must be a crisis and destruction. So we'll see.
Just like a winter period, we need to downsize.
In a way, yes. In a way. We'll see. I'm actually looking forward in a way to October to see what happens. I'm curious.
It's interesting though, because now it's below the ecliptic though. It's going below from
it's going below. It's going below.
So wouldn't you interpret that as like the opposite kind of tonality of it?
I don't know, because the fact is that prediction is so difficult because you never have the same combination of forces to deal with. For example, I have to combine when I want to predict. I have to combine the Pluto transit, the Pluto crossing, the current eclipses at work, the transits of other planets in various other coordinate systems. So everything works together, like in a person, and why it is so difficult to prove astrology in character delineation, because there are no clear areas or Tauruses or Leos. Each is a combination of several placements in a chart. Mm-hmm. So every person is different. So whereas it is true that the Aries energy is such and such and such, this Aries energy is combined with this and that energies, and then you have to do a combination of influences. You have to delineate the whole, the whole combination, and it's the same with predicting mundane affairs. You have to.
I can see that. Yeah. So science will never accept astrology purely because of that fact, because you will never ever have the same circumstances, nor can we manipulate them.
Yeah.
Hence, we can never fact check or validate a prediction. Hence, we say it's not scientific. At least that's their opinion, then, right?
Right. And then it doesn't exist. Right.
Well, what I say always when I deal with people who reject astrology, I say, well, astrology might not be a science, but it is true. Mm-hmm. But astrology is true. You know what I mean? It is.
It's a wider view.
Yeah, there's logic, there's mythology, you have pattern recognition, you have attributes that you assign to certain things. I mean, that's pretty much scientific already.
Yeah,
I've
been validate ever.
It's the techniques are astrology has methodology and rules and techniques. This makes it scientific. I mean, the way of research is kind of scientific, of course. It as you said, nothing works in isolation. But this is also the most modern scientific. What's the word? Scientific. Let me put it this way. The electric universe. People say that nothing exists in isolation, don't they? That once you take one particle away and treat it as something separate from the others, that everything falls apart. And this is the same as astrology says. You cannot take one thing away and separate it from the others, because then the reality is destroyed. I mean, it's not science in this way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I hope you understand what I mean.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most science is based on closed systems, which don't really exist in the universe.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I always argue for science being more of a method or a process to reach a certain, between brackets, truth or insight or
Thank you,
knowledge.
Edwin. I'm trying to explain.
Then adhering to a specific model or a piece of knowledge. I'm not saying that's not important, right? You need to build on something, but science, at least in my book, is more the method, right? How do you do it? How do you try and find an answer?
Yeah, it's the method.
And that's why I would agree with Emma very much that this is definitely a scientific method, whether science accept that or not, right? But there you go.
Yeah, gathering material, trying to see the similarities, you know. But it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult.
Well, I can see that, especially after your explanation gave me a whole new insight in astrology. And I particularly like your explanation how basically we are all subconsciously totally victim of when we were born and all those energies of the sun, the normal seasonal cycle alone. Just that one has a huge impact on our lives.
Yeah, we are preconditioned. I mean, it's the same that the same law that created the woman's menstrual cycle of 28 days. It's just the same length as one lunar cycle. It's not a coincidence, of course.
Some would argue that it's related to the rotation. Maybe Eugene, you were going to jump in there. It's connected to the rotation cycle of the sun itself, right? Around its own axis.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a solar connection there for you, Emma. So not so much a moon connection, but a solar connection. I believe that now I cannot prove it to you right here, right now. So it's for people for themselves to look it up. But I believe that it is actually a better connection to the rotation of the sun itself. And now you have a connection of the sun, the life giver, as you pointed out, directly to this menstruation cycle of the woman. Because I believe they know that because if you put them underneath ground, you're cut off from the radiation and it stops. Something like that. Where is
the source for this? Because I'd never heard of the 28-year cycle of the sun.
28 days.
Not
rotation.
Eugene,
you go. You're the expert there.
Well, I'm not exactly an expert, but yeah. Well, basically, the sun spins around its axis, and the period is about 28 days. It actually depends on the latitude. So the equator spins much faster than the poles, and the equator spins in about 27 days, I think. But at the poles, it's like 35 days. But, basically, we're facing the equator, kind of. So those lower latitudes spin almost like for 4 weeks, let's say, something like that.
You see, that's interesting. Where is? Do you have some links, some articles that?
Unfortunately, no. But
it's pretty much common knowledge. I mean, if you just Google like rotation of the sun or something like that, you would get it.
Okay. See, never noticed this. Thank you. I will check.
Yeah, and I can definitely say that it would affect Earth directly because this rotation causes, for example, the coronal holes to move. And what coronal holes do is they basically emit fast solar wind, which creates geomagnetic disturbances, first of all. So we have like magnetic storms and such. And they also modulate the flux of cosmic rays that bombard our planet. So basically the fast solar wind tends to kind of sweep out the cosmic rays that come from other stars or the galaxy itself. So during the streams of faster solar wind, which again repeat every 4 weeks, more or less, as the coronal holes are more or less stable, and they turn towards us and they turn around and they face us again in 4 weeks. So the flux of cosmic rays is modulated. The geomagnetic disturbances are modulated by this rotation. And what, for example, the cosmic ray flux, what it does, it basically regulates the level of ionization in the atmosphere, and also the electric potential between the ground and the ionosphere. And so it regulates the, first of all, the current density in the atmosphere, the vertical current from the ionosphere to the ground, which also, for example, controls the condensations of clouds, that kind of stuff, the formations of hurricanes, and so on and so forth. So there's a really direct connection here, which we already know about.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it affects the formation of the human egg. Yeah, the life itself. Yeah, the human egg, the woman's egg is the.
Well, but it doesn't really affect the egg itself. I would think that it would affect the uterine cycle because the eggs are already formed when the female is formed. So you know what I mean? When the female body, we're born with all our eggs, but it would be cyclical in relation to your uterine cycle and the shedding of that wall.
The hormone cycle. So sunlight directly influences not only the serotonin, for example, but also the hormone cycle. And
hormone cycle, yes, hormonal. Yeah, of course. Okay, guys, I think
beautiful. Thank you very much, Emma, for joining us. Really, really great.
Thank you. You're a nice crowd. I hope to see you again to be able to Thank you, Edo, for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Emma, for your contribution there, your lovely explanation. And yes, who knows when we'll meet again. I do hope so and look forward to it.
Of course. Thank you.
It was lovely to meet you.
Thank you, Heather.